It hasn't been the best season for the Memphis Grizzlies, missing Ja Morant for nearly the entire season and just generally suffering injuries up and down the roster. But one of the brightest spots has been the emergence of GG Jackson, who the Grizzlies selected with the 45th overall pick in the 2023 NBA draft. Despite falling all the way to the mid-second round of the draft, GG Jackson was a 5-star recruit when he was in high school, and he was viewed as one of the best prospects of the 2023 draft class prior to committing to UNC, where he subsequently decommitted and reclassified to the class of 2022, skipping his senior year of high school and enrolling at the University of South Carolina. Now, this is where things get a little bit odd for GG Jackson. If you go and look at his college numbers, you're going to see some pretty rough efficiency up and down the board. 15.4 points per game, 38.4% shooting overall, 32.4% from 3, and only 41.9% from 2. Those are some pretty rough numbers at a glance, but Jackson was only 18 years old, playing as the starting power forward and go-to guy for South Carolina. But even still, his scoring in college left a lot to be desired, both from a decision-making standpoint and an effort perspective. But if you look at what he's been doing over his recent stretch of games, it's a far cry from the picture that some of the pre-draft concerns painted about him. In just 19 minutes a game so far this season, he scored 11.3 points per game on 58.1% true shooting, including 41.2% from 3 on 4.4 attempts per game. He's already recorded 5 20-plus point games in his only 23 games played so far this year. Right now, from 3, he has the second best efficiency from beyond the arc of any rookie that's attempting at least 3 threes a game. One thing that bodes really well for his future success in the NBA is how good he already is shooting off of the catch. He shoots with confidence, and he knows where to be when defenses are helping off of him. Not to mention, some of the catch and shoot threes that we've seen him knock down so far are coming from really, really deep range, which has some implications for defenses having to step out a little bit further than normal to guard him or close out more aggressively to prevent and disrupt shots. He's shooting 43.1% on catch and shoot threes on 3.9 attempts per game. That's 7.2 catch and shoot attempts per 36 minutes. And alongside a guy like Ja Morant, that's exactly the kind of wing that you want flanking him. We know that Ja Morant's going to demand a ton of defensive attention on his drives, since he can pretty much get to the paint whenever he wants, and we all know that he can finish at a very high rate. So surrounding him with shooters is going to be one of the best ways to capitalize on all of that defensive attention that he gets. This makes me really confident that GG Jackson's going to be a seamless long-term fit with the Grizzlies and Ja Morant. And then you factor in his ability to attack off the catch with his high three-point efficiency, and you get a really solid-looking play finisher that can force defenses to rotate when he beats his man closing out on him. This is where we can see a little bit of his on-ball scoring shine, attacking off the catch and driving into the help defense waiting down low. And instead of forcing it to the rim and having to finish over tough defense, he instead creates a little bit of separation to get into this nice little sidestep baseline jumper. Even though his finishing numbers aren't really jaw-dropping, which, by the way, isn't uncommon for rookies at all, he's still able to make use of that length that he has to get by bigger defenders, and he's got some craftiness with things like switching to his offhand to get around shot contests at the rim. Here, when he gets the ball from Williams, he's going to use this nice jab step with his left foot to shift his defender, and then he's going to attack their front foot to get going up the middle. Now, when the defense shuts down the drive up the middle, Jackson is going to cross to his left hand and get into that space to get to the basket and finish. The fact that he's as big as he is at 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan is really going to open things up for him when he's going to work off the catch, both in terms of shooting from the perimeter, just getting the shots up over that closeout, and then getting by his defender to get to the rim and finish over defenses. I think what's really exciting, though, about Jackson is that he isn't just a spot-up shooter, and he doesn't need to just be camped out on the wing to get good looks. They've actually been putting him into some plays specifically to allow him to score, including this twirl action where it's going to look like he's going to get these staggered screens on the weak side, but instead he's going to cut in between the first and the second screen to get into space and get the ball on the way to the basket for the finish. On this play, he's going to fake like he's going to come and get the handoff, but when he recognizes his defender overplaying it, he's going to make the backdoor cut to get the feed for 2 easy points. Here, he's going to set this screen at the elbow for the cut up the middle, and then he's going to turn around and cut up the middle while the defense is expecting him to pop out to the perimeter so that he can instead get an easy look on the way to the basket. Now, he's not a 7-footer by any means, but his size is going to allow him to have a bit of versatility on the offensive end. We've seen the Grizzlies actually experiment with this a little bit, having him operate as the pick and roll big man in some of the games that he's played this season, and I'm pretty intrigued by the results. He seems to thrive when he gets the ball in space on the short roll so that he can get a little bit of a head of steam going downhill towards the basket to finish. This is another aspect of his game that I think bodes really well for his long-term fit with the Grizzlies, considering they can potentially get weird with some of their lineups when they opt for small ball. Using Jaren Jackson Jr. as the 4 with Gigi as a small ball 5 or vice versa could be something that adds some offensive juice to their team, and Jaren would still be able to act as the 5 defensively on the other end of the floor if he needs to. A lot of people might think that Gigi Jackson's big swing skill is going to be his on-ball scoring, but considering who he's going to be playing next to most of the time, I don't really think he needs to be some high-volume scorer to be successful on the offensive end. With Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. all being very, very capable on-ball scorers, he's going to just most likely have to be a play finisher, and I think he's more than capable of doing that already. When you factor in some of the defensive impact that he's shown, the Grizzlies have a very solid two-way wing on their hands. Their defense is 4.3 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor versus with him off the floor, and his size and athleticism is going to be enough to allow him to hold his own defensively, assuming he can maintain a solid motor and just develop some of that institutional knowledge on the defensive end that's going to come with more reps. He's got solid defensive ability in the paint too, with some flashes of supplementary rim protection. He's able to get rebounds at a pretty high rate for his position. The big thing to remember with him is that he only recently turned 19. And he's already showing a ton of promise right out of the gate. He may not be the high usage scoring wing that he was treated as in college and prior to the draft, and that's totally fine. That doesn't mean he's a bad player. That doesn't mean he can't maybe eventually develop into a high usage scorer. But right now, he offers something that the Grizzlies need as they look to build this roster around their core pieces. He's definitely had the right mentality and approach with his expectations coming into the NBA, going as far as saying that he thought he'd be spending most of his first year in the G League. And now that he's shown so much, the Grizzlies have already gone ahead and just signed him to a multi-year standard NBA contract. He hasn't even played 30 games yet, and he's the youngest player in the league. This year may not have been what the Grizzlies were hoping for, but ultimately all of this might be a good thing for them long-term, allowing Gigi Jackson to get more reps under his belt so that he can be prepared to contribute and play a major role in the Grizzlies contending next year once they get healthy. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd really appreciate it if you considered leaving a like and subscribing if you want to see more stuff like this. Shout out to all my patrons for supporting the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.